everyone. My name is Catherine Perez, and I'm the director of the Coelho Center for Disability Law, Policy, and Innovation. And I have the great honor to introduce Christian Wimberly, aka Deshaun. Deshaun is an 18-year-old freshman at Cal State Northridge. He's an entertainer and youth advocate who inspires many. Deshaun created Positive Vibes Only, which is an initiative for artists to network and showcase positivity. There's no telling what Deshaun will be up to next. Please enjoy a music video created by Deshaun.
There is a sluggishness, intellectual sluggishness, academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community, but this exists only because of the result that has come upon us through years and years of slavery.
Young people make some noise, and all the parents and teachers and community members and organizers who are here to back you up.
Why yes? Why we need school police? Hey, why we need school police? Why yes? Yeah. Why we need school police? Yeah, I don't get it, they causing the friction, I'm really not with it. We need more counseling nurses, the lunch is not meeting criteria. Why we need school police? Why we need school police? I'll say it again, man, these cops killing kids and we scared of the cops. The gov is basically letting them in, I don't understand. Why we need school police? Why we need school police? If the kids fighting, the police igniting, you get sent to juvenile, you were parolee. But all you needed was some counseling. This the closest thing to blasphemy. I'ma start fighting back casualties. They not harassing me, they is not saving me. Why we need school police? They need vacation, and why we need school police? Why we need school police? Matter of fact, abolishment, we know what time it is. Yeah. Tired of following orders, some youth got disorders. The cops do not know us, especially impoverished communities, soldier. They don't need training, we don't need their forces. They is not helping, so we gonna know them. You heard them, we told them, just listen to you. Abolish their forces. Abolish their forces. Yeah. Started off with a dream like Martin Luther King, but the cops killing dreams, and I feel like I'm next. At war with my stress, lying they don't protect. They put that force on your neck. To them that's another black dead. I don't know how they feel, but I'm already dead. Just imagine all the yellow kids that don't got a voice, still stuck in their head. Then we all dead. All I'm saying is the school police is not it. We need to abolish and make a new set. Yeah, abolish and make a new set. Yeah. We need to abolish and make a new set. We need to abolish and make a new set. Why we need school police? Why yeah, I don't get it, they causing the friction, I'm really not with it. We need more counseling nurses, the lunches, they not meeting criteria. Why we need school police? Why we need school police? Yeah, I don't get it, they causing the friction, I'm really not with it. We need more counseling nurses, the lunches not meeting criteria. If you agree, say yeah. 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 Why we need school police? 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 Yeah.
Why we need school police? 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 Why we need school police?
Black students are twice as likely to be arrested at school than any other student. U.S. public schools have more law enforcement officers than social workers. This, I wish I could say, surprised me.
That's psychological harm on a child, and that's the stuff that makes me like shake in my bones.
School police shouldn't exist. They didn't always exist, and they cost over $70 million a year.
The police in our community occupy our area, our community as a foreign troop occupies territory.
We want freedom.
Hello everyone, my name is Christian Wimberly and I'm a youth leader with Brotherhood Crusade. California has 2 times more law enforcement in schools than social workers.
My name is Maya Edwards-Mena and I'm a recent graduate of Venice High School. I've been a proud member of Student Center Los Angeles. Today, I came here with my fellow beautiful Black and brown students all outside and right here on the side. We are here to expand the safety of community schools by demanding to vote yes on Monica Garcia's motion to defund the LAUSD School Police, the largest school police district in the country.
No one of us can be free until everybody is free. And every one of us needs to say to our children, this is your world. Come out, stand out, earn it.
We don't need the legacy of slave catching in our schools.
85% of current and former students who had interactions with school police reported them as negative, including experiences like being followed, questioned, questioned, harassed, randomly searched, use of force, and the big one, racially profiled.
The real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them.
30 days ago, people wouldn't have been talking about defunding school police.
Last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
No matter what gets approved or not approved today, the work is not done. We gotta stay in the streets. We gotta continue organizing. We gotta continue turning up. We gotta continue to uplift and center the voices, especially of our black youth.
Nearly 400,000 students in California attend a school with a police officer, but no school counselor. This is unacceptable.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Michael Waterstone. I am the Dean of Loyola Marymount University, Loyola Law School. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here tonight. I want to thank my friend and colleague, Catherine Perez, for convening this and bringing us together today, and we're certainly looking forward to the evening. It's my pleasure right now, and really my honor, to introduce Tony Cuelo, the namesake of the Coelho Center. Tony Cuelo is a disability rights and civil rights hero. And one of the things that I admire greatly about Tony is he demonstrates better than anyone the power of law to make a difference in people's lives. As a congressman in the United States House of Representatives and the third highest ranking member of Congress, Tony was the primary sponsor of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, decades and decades and decades later, when you say it like that, it sounds simple, but it was not. This involved educating the American public and politicians why people with disabilities were deserving of civil rights. And it involved delicate negotiations with the business communities and all levels of state and federal government. Tony brings passion and a unique skill set to this work, and he remains a key figure in this intergenerational struggle. Tony is someone that understands teaching broad audiences about disability civil rights and civil rights generally, and keeping the pressure on to create change. Tony is a graduate of Loyola Marymount University. He's someone that I am proud to call a friend and mentor. So I'm going to introduce you now and turn over the platform to my friend and mentor, Tony Cuella.
Tony, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. You need to unmute and start your video.
Boy, I was really going at it. I'm sorry. I want to first thank Dean Waterstone for his comments. And I want to applaud Kat for putting this all together and doing the tremendous job that Catherine is doing. I founded the Coelho Center at LMU because Dean Waterstone is one of the main reasons. He's a renowned legal expert worldwide, and I realized that I wanted to have a university that was committed to disability. And at Loyola, all the colleges are working with the Coelho Center, so there are no individual silos. So it's an exciting place to be, and an exciting place to be involved, and particularly exciting as a graduate of LMU to have the Coelho Center there. This election is critically important nationally, but also locally. Local races are just as important. We hear a lot about the national races, but local races are just as important. It's a matter of setting up the foundation of not only what we do locally, but state and federal. And it's important to have local officials, school districts, mayors, city councils, and so forth, that are involved in the issues that are critical to all of us. So I think it's fabulous having this event today and educating people about what these candidates stand for and what they want to do. I've done that for many, many years on the federal level, but I've always been extremely supportive of what can take place on the local level. It's exciting to be involved with the Los Angeles School District because I'm sure most of you know that it's not only the largest school district in California, but it's the second largest in the whole country. You know, there's 137 schools. It covers 710 square miles. The population, as everybody knows, in LA County is a little under 5 million people. There are 66,000 plus employees in the school district. And as a result, it's the second largest employer in LA County. There are 129 million meals served in 2018 and 19. And the Unified General Fund is approximately $7.5 billion a year. 700,000 students were enrolled last year. Nearly 75% of the students are Latino. Nearly 80% of the students qualify free or reduced price lunch. More than 19,000 students are homeless. More than 8,500 live in foster care. English and 99 languages are spoken in the school district. And then approximately 15% of the students are receiving special education services. Now, all of you know, as a result of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, students with disabilities are guaranteed a free and appropriate public education. We have to strive to make sure that our students are being provided this mandate. Why voting is important and why the forum is so important is to make all this possible. Best of luck to all the candidates in districts 3 and 7. Those are the only ones contested, but congratulations to all of you in being candidates and good luck in this election. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate you being here with us today. And hello again, everyone. Welcome. My name is Catherine Perez, and I'm the director of the Coelho Center for Disability Law, Policy, and Innovation.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Irene Rivera. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Education Policy Advocate and Organizer with the ACLU of Southern California.
Thank you, Irene. You also reminded me to say that my pronouns are also she, her, and hers. And on that note, thank you to Irene and everyone at the ACLU of Southern California for being co-hosts with us on this event. Also, a big thank you to the Youth Liberty Squad. You guys will hear more from students from the Liberty Squad later today. And to Loyola Law School's Youth Justice Education Clinic for partnering with the Coelho Center to organize today's event. Now, the purpose of this candidate forum is to promote civic engagement by providing an opportunity to learn about the Los Angeles Unified School District candidates and their platforms. We invited all 4 candidates from districts 3 and 7, the contested races on this year's November ballot to participate in this forum. And for this forum, we wanted to center the LAUSD students in planning and participation.
Oh, 1 second. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so we are actually joined today by some amazing students who are part of the Youth Liberty Squad. which is a youth leadership program that was created by the ACLU of Southern California to engage high school students, to inspire them and to provide them with the tools and resources to become the next generation of social justice leaders. Although really, a lot of them are already leaders now, and so we just want to be there to continue to support them in their development in this work. And so before we introduce our candidates, we do want to go over some quick logistics just so that everybody is on the same page. And so if we can please pull up that slide so that we can have it up. Thank you. All right, so we do have interpretation in CART. If you have not already noticed, I think you are able to pin it onto your screen if you need it. For all of you that are joining us today, you will only be able to see the candidates when they speak, co-moderators, which includes Catherine and myself, the students who will be guiding us through the questions, and the ASL interpreter. And then for our attendees, we will have at the end, towards the end, an opportunity to read some audience questions depending on time. And so all of you should have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen where you can submit your questions. They won't pop up on the general chat box, but we do have a question monitor who will be vetting through the questions, and we will read through at least 2 of them towards the end of the forum. And just a reminder, if you all did not know, the candidate forum is being recorded and live streamed, I believe. I know we were having a little bit of trouble on Facebook, but it should be live streaming on Facebook. And also at the end of the forum, we will put on the chat box a link to an evaluation form. And we'll also try to send it out to you all via email. And then finally, if you all are on social media, we ask you to please share the event. If you take any screenshots, if you recorded a portion of it, please make sure you tag the Youth Liberty Squad, ACLU SoCal, the Coelho Center, and Loyola Law School, or LLS Justice, and you can use the hashtags that are up on your screen. So hashtag LAUSD, hashtag LAUSD District 3, and LAUSD District 7.
Thanks, Irene. Now I'd like to go over the candidate guidelines. In order to ensure a respectful and informative forum for all participants, candidates, and community alike, the planning team asks that the candidates agree to the following guidelines. First, be respectful. Refrain from attacking any candidate. Speak only on the issue and the question asked. 1 mic, 1 speaker. In order to be an effective listener and learner, please respect the person speaking. Only 1 person should be speaking at a time. Third, be mindful of our diverse community. Speak clearly and slowly to help reduce language barriers and allow the interpreter to simultaneously interpret. Now each candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. The candidates are given 2 minutes to answer each question, as well as 2 minutes each for their closing remarks. Now we would like to introduce the 2 candidates here with us today by reading the bios they provided us. First, we have Tanya Ortiz Franklin. Tanya is an educator and leader who grew up in our community and has served the students of Los Angeles Unified for the past 15 years. Raised by a single mother who immigrated from Mexico, Tanya learned from a young age the importance of education and decided to pursue a career in education to prepare more young people to fulfill their greatest potential. After graduating from Columbia University, Tanya came back to serve her community and became a public school teacher at Stephen White Middle School in 2005. Tanya was a public school teacher for 5 years before she was laid off in 2010 due to budget cuts stemming from the Great Recession. She applied to UCLA School of Law and found new ways to continue serving students by working with the Partnership for Los Angeles Schools. For the last 15 years, Tanya Ortiz Franklin's work has centered on students, whether as a public school teacher, special education lawyer, or an advocate for educational equity and opportunity. Tanya is running to serve as the board member for Los Angeles Unified's District 7 to make sure all students graduate fully prepared to thrive in the college and career of their choice.
right, and I will now read Marilyn Kozatek's bio. Marilyn is running to represent the communities of LAUSD Board District 3 because our kids in schools deserve a champion that speaks with the personal experience of a public school parent and with the knowledge of a school side education professional. Marilyn's family lived in a poverty-stricken nations like Nepal, Pakistan, and Sierra Leone before she moved to Los Angeles to study at the University of Southern California, where she graduated cum laude with a degree in business administration. She has worked at Granada Hills Charter for nearly 6 years, one of the highest performing public schools in California. Her work includes developing enrichment programs for students to battle the isolation experienced during the COVID-19 crisis and ensuring the most vulnerable students receive the academic support they need. She has led the community outreach department and has increased parent engagement, launched the school's first mobile app, created a work-based internship program to help students gain valuable real-world job experience, and supported teachers and students through grant writing. Her work helps Granada Hills offer a high-quality public education while managing a budget surplus. Not only is Marilyn committed to the students and faculty at Granada Hills, she also chairs the education committee at the Valley Industry Commerce Association, sits on the 38th Assembly Education Advisory Committee, volunteers with the Children's Hunger Fund, and is a member of the Parent-Teacher Association at her kids' public school. She also earned a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. Marilyn and her husband, Michael, have 2 young sons, both attending their neighborhood public school. And so now we're going to move on to our moderated questions, our moderated question portion of the forum. Our Youth Liberty Squad students will be guiding us through that time. And so each student is going to introduce themselves, share a little bit about why they are here with us today. And after they read their question, either Catherine or I will prompt one of the candidates to respond first, followed by the other. And so with that, I'm now going to pass it off to Elizabeth to lead us in the questions.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Simon, and my pronouns are she, her, her. I'm currently a high school junior at Francisco Bravo Medical Magnet High School, and I am participating in this candidate forum because I was presented this opportunity and I am very interested in politics. I have been an LAUSD student for most of my life, and now I feel the need to be more involved in my community. My younger sister and all of my friends and family are all important to me, and the topics that are going to be discussed today, I am sure are all important to you too. Sadly, I cannot vote, but regardless, amongst everything going on, I believe that it is important to still attend candidate forums now and in the future as well. There are so many important issues in our communities that as a voter, you all can make a difference in, especially for school board elections, because these affect your kids, family, neighbors, friends, and their educations. So I hope that this candidate forum will help you all learn more about our candidates, and that this will help you choose who to vote for to represent our school communities this coming school year. And with all this being said, our first question is, what is your opinion on the role of school police, and what would be your plan to apportion the school district's budget if police continue to be defunded?
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. And for this first question, Tanya, you may go first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Tanya Ortiz Franklin, she, her, hers, and I'm so grateful for this space that already is centering youth leadership. And what a start to this question with that video opening the space this afternoon. I think that's the focus, that we need to be listening to our young people when thinking about the role of school police and really any funding related to student safety. I have so appreciated the leadership of our young people telling us what helps them feel safe physically, emotionally, mentally, and honestly, I think we need to take a step back in our district and look at our funding in all of those areas. School police may play a role, but they may not. And our young people are asking for other ways to feel safe on campus, in classrooms, and in their neighborhoods. So what I would really like to do is, with community partners who've been leading this work, sit down and look at our $7.5 billion budget and discuss, are we on track to meeting our goals, and do we even agree on what our goals are? If students are really getting prepared for college, career, and life, do we have the right allocations of dollars for all kinds of student safety? Again, physical, maybe that's school police, maybe that's community partners and our campus aides who build really strong relationships on campus. Is it safe intellectually in the classroom for students to take risks and make mistakes in their learning? Is it safe emotionally? Do we have enough mental health support and counseling staff? You know, honestly, since 2013, the role of school police has really been minimized. And I think we're on track to centering our student voices in deciding how we allocate our dollars to make sure we are providing the supports they need to be successful on campus. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I will now pass it off to Marilyn.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. And one of the things that I love about this event is that it is student-led. And to me, this is a huge reason as to why I am running for this board seat, is to give a voice to students and to empower students in the process. And so related to this question, specifically about school police, you know, I also, like others, you know, it's moving to see the students be able to express when they feel unsafe. And I think over the years, we have seen a change in the role of school police as it's moved into areas like student discipline instead of being a role for like safety and for emergency response in things like crisis, such as earthquakes or gun and weapons violence threats on campuses. So I think this is a moment where we can review and look at processes and systems within our system. And we know that children of color and children with special needs have higher rates of disciplinary actions against them. And I think we need to reflect on that, not just in the context of school police, but in the entire system itself. I think that we see results of inequity in our system in all ways. And even outside of discipline, it can go into things like computer science, where we see inequity in some of those areas where it's only certain student groups have access to really high quality curriculum. So I think that this, as board members, we need to be able to take a look at the system as a whole, ask the tough questions, and keep students always at the center.
Great, thank you so much both. And now we are going to pass it off to Andy to lead us into the second question.
Hello, my name is Andy Melgar. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a senior at Smith Technology High. Although I am currently not part of the LAUSD, I am a student, which is why I decided to participate in this event. People attending candidate forums are important, especially for school and board elections, because it will help us get informed on who is running to represent our districts. We want to ensure we get to know the candidates and what they have to offer as much as possible. With that said, my question is, this November, California voters will have the opportunity to vote on Proposition 15. This ballot initiative would reclaim about $12 billion for schools and local government. What is your position on Proposition 15, and would you commit to personally endorse it for this November's election? Why or why not?
Yes. I believe I'm the one that goes first, yes. So I do support this proposition because I believe at a fundamental level, an investment in our public school system, as a society, we will see returns on our investment for generations to come. And that's what this proposition is about, is about ensuring appropriate funding for our students. So even in the brief time that we've talked in this forum, we've already recognized and talked about areas where we could use funds better for kids. So for me, I'm a big proponent of ensuring that we restore programming in things like arts. Career tech ed is a passion of mine as well. And I think we've all seen there is understaffing happening at our campuses when we start talking about wraparound services, which is counseling, social workers, school nurses. These types of areas of needs have been recognized for a long time. So for me, this proposition is about ensuring that we are investing in the next generation.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And now I'll pass it off to Tanya.
Thank you. Am I good to go? If so, I too, along with Marilyn and hundreds, if not thousands of others across our city, wholeheartedly endorse Proposition 15. In fact, I was able to do some signature gathering with some Youth Liberty Squad members back in probably January, February, before we even had a proposition number. Schools and Communities First is what we called it a while ago, because it is about putting schools and communities first. LA Unified would receive a lot of money. Some estimates are close to $1 billion to support our schools, our students, and it is absolutely crucial that everyone gets out there and votes for this Proposition 15 come November 3rd. In addition to passing Prop 15, we know we have an equity issue with our funding as well. We need more, and Prop 15 will help us get closer to adequacy, but we also know that in a district as diverse as LA Unified, some schools need more resources than others. And I've been proud to work alongside lots of community organizations pushing for the Student Equity Needs Index, and that's exactly where I think the funds from Proposition 15 should be allocated. We should send them to our students and our schools and communities that have been most historically disenfranchised by systems of power and really reverse the challenges our students have been facing. And so yes, I have tweeted about it. I will continue to do so. Please tell everyone you know, every dinner, every conversation is an opportunity to encourage all those who are eligible to vote for Prop 15 and to keep pushing for more funding for our students, especially our highest need students in LA Unified.
Thank you so much, Tanya. All right, I'm now going to pass it off to Zaid to lead us into the third question.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zaid Diaz. I am a recent high school graduate of Ground Hills Charter High School. I'm also an ACLU student leader and an activist, and I will be attending USC in the spring. To tell you a little bit about myself, I used to serve on my school site council, and I currently serve on my local neighborhood council as the youth board member and chair the Youth Empowerment Committee, as well as the Education Committee. Last summer, I was also a prominent student leader in the Students Not Suspects campaign, and was a part of the group that pressured our board members to eliminate the random searches policy. I choose to involve myself in social justice, advocacy, and activism because I see it as my innate duty to serve, represent, and fight for my family and friends, to improve our circumstances, and to fight for my community who are less fortunate than I have been. Today, I am here on behalf of myself, my siblings, and all students in the district so that we can ensure our rights are upheld, we are treated justly, and represented accurately. Therefore, I come to ask you, what is your opinion on the LAUSD's decision to not evaluate students for special education thus far during COVID-19?
All right, thank you, Zaid. And I'm going to pass it off to Tanya to get us started for this question.
Thank you for the question and for your dedication, Zaid. I really felt that. You know, the decision to not evaluate students during this time for special needs is frustrating. It's disappointing, it's unfair, and it has resulted in lots of students not receiving the services, the accommodations, the supports that they are entitled to, not just by federal law, but because their learning requires that their school and their school staff support them in ways that help them really access the content. You know, there are so many challenges right now during the pandemic, our climate change challenges, the uprisings for social and racial justice. And what we're learning is that we absolutely have to center those who have been at the margins for too long. And that includes our special education students, whether they're identified or they might be identified. And we know that evaluation is the first step to figuring out what students really need to be able to access their learning. So students are guaranteed a free and appropriate public education, as you heard earlier, and many of you are experts in that. This is calling into question what is appropriate education for students who might not be able to access through the computer. Where public health officials have said it's safe, we should be thinking about students coming on campus in small groups to access the kinds of services they might need to get their learning. We also think about least restrictive environment in special education. Well, everyone for the most part is in their home environment, but it doesn't mean that students still can't receive the types of services and supports that they need. And so I think if we talked to special education teachers, we could come to a much better solution so that kids are actually getting what they absolutely deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. All right, let's reset the clock, and now I will now pass it off to Marilyn.
Yeah, so Zaid too, you go to Granada or went to Granada and going to USC, so I can say go Highlanders and fight on. So yeah, to answer the question about, listen, when COVID-19, when the pandemic first started, it was, we were in a crisis, right? Our entire globe did not know what was coming. And it was an immediate moment. So in that time period, it did, you know, it was like, okay, everybody was just trying to take stock as to what is about to happen. But we are now, this started in March, we are now in September, we are in a sustained state of being where we are moving away from being in a crisis mode into being a time when that actually is no longer an excuse. So I think that there is an injustice to students if we just continue saying that this is you know, a response because we don't know what's happening. Well, it's been months and months. So we have to be able to create systems in the environment that we're in right now, which is distance learning. And we are moving towards possibly being able to provide in-person learning if there are certain risk mitigations that can happen. So I think we should be able to take this moment to provide appropriate therapy and services to our students with special needs, because we're in a unique environment where, say there's a teletherapy that we can do for a child who needs services and parents are at home. So this could actually be a moment where we could uplift that service, because the therapist can be with the parents and the child at the same time over Zoom, learning from each other, being in a home environment, and being able to perhaps learn that once this crisis is over, maybe there's things and lessons that we can move forward to improve this permanently so that children are always going to be served in the best way possible.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And before I move us on to the next question, I just want to remind everyone that we will have, at the end of the prompted questions, we'll have an opportunity to read at least 2 audience questions, virtual audience questions. And so all of you have a function or a little button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. That's going to be the best place to post your questions on there. And we do have a question monitor, aka one of our Youth Liberty Squad students, who will help vet through them. And so you can definitely start putting your questions in there now, and we will get to them after we go through our 6 moderated questions. All right, so with that being said, I am now going to pass it off to Christine to lead us into our 4th question.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Latif. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am a senior at Girls Academic Leadership Academy. I am here on behalf of my friends and community who have all grown up in the LAUSD school system. I've attended LAUSD schools for most of my life, and I believe that it is important that more of us are aware of the people that we are putting into the school board, which is why I am so excited to be here and to ask questions. My question for today is, what is your plan for students with disabilities in reimagining the education system given COVID-19?
Thank you, Christine. For this question, Marilyn, you can go ahead.
Yes, I love this question because this is a moment when we have to be asking this about reimagining. We have an opportunity where we could build back better if we choose to do that. And I think, I mean, for me, that's one of the reasons why I am running for this board seat, is because we need this type of vision in leadership. So specifically, when it comes to special education, look, one size fits all models has never worked, and every school community has very specific needs. And so in general, if we want to summarize ways that special education could be improved, it would be things like improved screening for our youngest students, enhanced SPED training for all of our teachers, and streamlining the supports that our students do receive. But the obligation of our school system is that the individual needs of every student is met. So in LAUSD, that's 14% of the students require special education support, and we know that percentage is increasing. So we know that certain things, maybe old style pull-out models or things that we've used in the past, it's not going to continue to work. So that's evidence of this one size fits all, that it's not going to be good enough for our kids. I believe that core instruction needs to improve with modalities within instruction to be able to support all types of learners. But I think in summary, if we boil it down to the core, you know, an IEP should be exactly what it says it is. It is an individualized education plan. And with COVID-19, we have this opportunity to divest ourselves from some of the cumbersome systems that we've used in the past and really focus on what every student needs.
Great. Thank you so much, Marilyn. All right, and now I'm going to pass it off to Tanya.
Just like Marilyn, I love this question. And I think it's because so often you hear, when will we go back? And this desire to return to the way things were, which we know was not servicing our highest needs students, students with disabilities, our English language learners, our foster youth and homeless students. I could go on about the groups of students in LA Unified for whom the traditional way of doing things was not always working. And so this is exactly what we should be doing in this crisis opportunity in some respects, is think really differently, revolutionarily about what is going well. And I will be very honest, I don't have all the answers. I will never have all of the answers. I really do believe that those closest to our kids and our classrooms, that's our teachers, our parents, and students themselves, are discovering those answers right now. And so I would love for this question to be shared in community with those who are finding those solutions. So where teachers are collaborating more with each other and finding ways to enhance technology and reach out to students in creative ways, not just through Zoom, but for example, one of my favorite teacher collaborations has resulted in the love of Flipgrid. In traditional school oral presentations, for example, you might have memories of sitting and listening to your classmates talk on and being silent for hours of instruction. While Flipgrid is one example where kids can record videos and comment on each other's videos and really think about stretching the learning minutes of the day to use all of their great skills like critique and collaboration and thoughtful oral presentation in ways that we couldn't have done in traditional school. Now, that's just one instructional strategy, but those strategies are coming from our teachers who are trying them out. And that's where we need to go for these answers.
Thank you so much, Tanya. All right, so we're just gonna keep moving along. I'm now gonna pass it off to Luis Cruz for the 5th question.
Hi, my name is Luis Cruz. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a senior at Esperance College Prep in East Los Angeles. I decided to participate in this candidate forum because, as exaggerated as it may sound, our education is in the hands of these elected board members. It's important for people to stay involved because whether someone is a student, a parent, or whatever the case may be, the board members have an impact on the quality of productivity and accessibility of resources in our community. So my question to the candidates is, last month, LAUSD began its school year unlike any in the history of education. How will you address school accountability to meet the accommodation support needed by students, especially those that are low income, homeless, English learners, those involved in the juvenile legal system and or in foster care?
Thank you so much, Luis. And Tanya, you can lead us with this question.
Thank you for the question. You know, the first thing for me is that in distance learning, we have to be very clear that 100% of our kids deserve and need devices and stable internet connectivity to be able to participate in learning. And on Monday, we heard that 98% of our students have connected at least one time. Well, looking at the student groups that you just mentioned, I predict that they are a large portion of the nearly 10,000 kids in LA Unified who have not yet connected to learning. And for me, that's foundational. We have to start there. We cannot accept less than 100% of our kids being able to access daily learning. So that's step one. And in terms of accountability, you know, the spring was a big learning experience for all of us. The state got rid of our assessments. We didn't take attendance in LA Unified. And we also said that that students wouldn't earn fails. And so when you have these kinds of metrics that you've been used to for so long and you take them away without thinking through and collaborating with others about different ways to build accountability and motivation for demonstrating learning, which that's what accountability is, demonstration for learning, then you have these real big misses. And so what I would really love to do in this moment, in particular for these high need student groups, but across the district, is really get clear about how are we demonstrating learning during this time, and let's look at the data across different groups to see if kids are doing as we would hope for them to do. Now again, baseline is attendance and are you connecting to Schoology and doing the assignments. We need to start to get to the next level of how well are we learning and what do we need to adjust to make sure we're still on course or as close to on course as possible for students to master their standards and get ready for college and life.
Thank you so much, Tanya. All right, and now I'm going to pass it on to our final student who's going to lead us into our last question before we go through one of the questions that we've received through Q&A. So again, a reminder, if you have any question or questions that apply to both candidates, or a question that they can both answer, please, I welcome you all to put it in the Q&A section, or in the Q&A button that you have at the bottom of your screen. And so I am now going to pass it off to Karine to help us with our last question.
Good afternoon. My name is Karine Anderson, he, him pronouns, and I'm in the 11th grade going to Middle College High School. I come to you today because I've noticed that there are quite a few children, such as myself, who feel powerless and silenced in certain decisions that directly affect us as a community, as a system, and as a people. People who shouldn't go without a say in these decisions because it's of the utmost importance we possess the basic human right our forefathers have fought so long ago. The right to have a voice in how we are governed beyond the simple, please vote for this person because they said what we want to hear right now. Personally, I can't vote just yet, but that doesn't mean I'm unable to create a significant change, nor does it mean I will not try. And if trying means hoping to persuade the people who control the path of my life, the life of my peers, and the lives of future generations within 2 minutes, then so be it. So my question to you candidates is, as distance learning continues in the district, how will you ensure students' mental health is continuously addressed even after COVID-19?
Okay, Okay, thank you, Corinne. So sorry about that. I happened to jump into the last question and I realized that Marilyn did not answer the fourth question. And so I am gonna go back so that Marilyn can respond to the last question. Marilyn, I will repeat it. So the fourth question is, what is your plan for students with disabilities in reimagining the education system given COVID-19? Fifth question, sorry. So I think the timer is up.
Yeah, I think it was actually the fifth question.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry
question.
about that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you for that. My apologies, everyone.
No
All right,
worries.
so the fifth question is, last month, LAUSD began its school year unlike any in the history of education. How will you address school accountability to meet the accommodations and supports needed by students, especially those that are low income, homeless, English learners, those involved in the juvenile legal system and or in foster care?
Okay, great question. Thank you. Yeah, accountability. This is a big issue, and even you know, one that I think, you know, we, again, going back to the crisis at the beginning, they talked about suspending some of our accountability measures, but the LCAP, which for those who are familiar, is an accountability tool that schools respond to the state and are held accountable for how we serve vulnerable populations. And so there is still one due. School site professionals are working on their LCAPs and will be turning them in. We are going to have to monitor attendance this school year, the 2020-21 year, and engagement work completion, which looks completely different in distance learning. I think that as a leader in the educational space, I want to always talk about accountability, but keep talking about the supports. I don't want accountability to be this thing that we just, a report that we turn in over and over again, year after year, and yet we're constantly failing our students. So I always want to be able to ask, you know, are we engaging our students well? Are we removing obstacles so that students can continue to learn? What is the quality of the intervention when our students are falling behind? And are we able to try new things like shortening opportunities for shortening learning segments so that kids can learn, or lengthening learning segments? So during distance learning specifically, there are some school districts that have done an outstanding job about engaging with parents and students, doing things like offering call centers in multiple languages, checking in with families every single day, calling them, asking them, have you been able to connect? Are you engaged still with your classroom? And are you able to complete your work in different languages based on different communities? So for me, this is all about communication, communication, communication with our families.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And again, my apologies for skipping over your response, but now we are going to go back to the last question, which was read by Corinne. I will read it once more so that you both have it. And Marilyn, you will go first for this one. So the question that we have for this one is, as distance learning continues in the district, how will you ensure students' mental health is continuously addressed even after COVID-19? All right, so I think we have 2 minutes on the clock. And so Marilyn, you can go ahead.
Yes, and I want to acknowledge too what the young man said about feeling powerless. And I think that this is what, that no student should have to use that word to say that they are powerless. We should be empowering our students. And I believe that in a fundamental way. So yes, I think this, so in mental health, so remember I work at a comprehensive high school with nearly 5,000 students. Mental health was an enormous top of mind issue before the pandemic. Now we're in a full-blown crisis of mental health of our young people. So I've seen statistics where feelings of isolation, depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, that impacts our youngest students, our young people, far greater than older people during this pandemic. And that's a problem. Another statistic that I find particularly compelling is that a youth survey said that youth reported about 60% of them were approached by an adult with a support that could help them during this crisis. And 93% of those youth said it was helpful. But that leaves about 40% of youth said that they never had even an opportunity to access the support that they needed. So that could be something with mental health, that could be a physical need that they have. So we know our youth are experiencing a collective trauma and they will benefit from supports. So, and if they don't receive the support, their suffering will increase. So I think that this is about connecting our youth to the supports that we have, and we need more, and they need to be effective. And it can be a variety of ways. And just to quickly use the illustration of what I do in my day-to-day, you know, I'm a part of this enrichment program, trying to give our students an outlet that's non-academic. And I'm doing a driver's ed. I have 400 students enrolled in my driver's ed program to give them an outlet of something to do in this time. And that's unprecedented. And I think it's just important that we're providing supports for our students.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And I will now pass it off to Tanya.
Thank you. You know, for the last almost 7 years, my focus at work with 19 LA Unified Schools has been restorative justice, social emotional learning. And it wasn't until the sort of pinnacle of the pandemic that everyone realized, at least in my experience, how important mental health and wellness was in everybody's interactions. So when I was a classroom teacher, we used to have a saying, every teacher is a literacy teacher. And for the last few years, I've heard a lot of folks say, every person is a math person, right? So we're trying to build these skills across educators. Well, now I really feel like mental health and wellness is everyone's responsibility. And there is that shared understanding that I don't think we had before this crisis. And that requires a lot more skill building for teachers, taking instructional minutes to check in on how students are feeling and how they're managing their emotions. And also making sure our students who do have higher needs are getting the support they need, where teachers' skills are not as clinical, so for our social workers and our mental health experts. And so what I hope happens after the crisis ends is that we continue to prioritize social emotional learning in regular instruction, potentially more in advisory, which is also something that has grown this semester in ways that I don't think it had prior to, and that we make sure we're partnering with community partners who deliver direct therapy to students, to families, and in fact, lots are still doing home visits, which has been a limitation for our district staff members right now. So I hope it continues the fire, that this is important, that it's valid, and that we honestly all do have a role to play with our individual relationships. And also the district has a huge role to play in terms of prioritizing the resources so that schools have what they need to help meet kids' mental health needs.
Okay, thank you so much, Tanya. And so this concludes our student-led questions. And so now I'm going to pass it off to Catherine to lead us through some of the questions that you all have submitted. So you probably have like 30 seconds if you want to throw in your last question in there. But go ahead, Catherine.
All right. Hi, everyone. And thank you to the candidates for answering all of those questions. I have one ready for you guys. And with each of the audience questions, we're going to ask the same question to both candidates. So we did get some folks who are asking very specific questions to individual candidates, and we're going to try to make sure that if we choose it, that it works for both candidates. So for this first question, this audience member asks, can you compare your experiences and qualifications that set you apart from your opponent who did not show up? And Tanya, you can go first.
Thanks for the question. Before I get to distinctions, I first want to say, someone pointed this out to me earlier, that in this election, how great it is, in my opinion, that our voters get to choose one of two Latinas who grew up in the district. And that will make our board a majority people of color board, which for me is very exciting in LA Unified. So we have some of that shared identity and roots in our community, but I'll say what differentiates my opponent and myself are our work experiences exactly. I was a classroom teacher. I've spent my entire career working alongside educators in schools, focused on teaching and learning. And that is exactly how I will think about decision making at the school board is, how does it impact the teaching and learning of our students? My opponent has a different work experience that are also valid, but has a different approach, I think, in the decisions that will come before the board. And so when we're talking about the LCAP and budgeting decisions, when we're talking about big goals and student data, I will bring my teacher perspective first and foremost to the table, because that is what everything should be centering around, is the learning of our students. But I have this combination of educator and advocate. You heard a little of my story. I was a special ed attorney for a little while, and I've been advocating for more equitable policies with funding and school safety for the district. And I understand the perspectives of our community asking for school board members to center their constituents' voices. And that is also what school board members need to do as a representative of your district. And so I think what's unique about my background experience is that combination of being a classroom teacher and pairing it with community advocacy in ways that will always center our kids, and in particular, our kids who've been most historically disenfranchised. So that's how I think I largely differ from my opponent.
Thank you, Tanya. And now we will pass it off to Marilyn.
Yes, thank you. So my opponent is, he's an incumbent, and but one of the most interesting things that differentiates us is that I am an LAUSD mom with children in my neighborhood traditional school. And if elected, I would actually be the only parent of LAUSD children on the school board. And I think that that representation is vital when it comes to making decisions that will impact our students and our kids. Because if there's any parents in the audience, I think that you know, we all recognize that there's a fierce determination when it comes to ensuring that our kids get the best. And I believe that there's no such thing as an ordinary child. There's no such thing as an ordinary school. And I think that we have to be able to look at this district as one of 700,000 individual students. And a mom is like myself is going to be the type of person who can have that perspective the best. And I think another thing that differentiates me from my incumbent is the fact that I have been working in a large school in the year 2020. And that's an experience that none of the current board members have either. And I have done things like, you know, I've launched our school's very first mobile app. That's not anything else that the district, other board members have done. Our schools are different than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and we need to be focused on the future. We need to be focused on our kids. When my son graduates in the year 2031 from high school, you know, I think about that year and I think, are we preparing our kids for the workforce of the future? Are we preparing them for what's coming next instead of constantly relying on the educational models of the past?
Catherine, do you want Catherine, sorry, do you want me to read the next question? Because I know you wasn't.
No, I have it here.
Got it.
So thank you to both of the candidates. We have a few audience questions, and once again, I just wanted to let folks know that the audience questions need to be general so that both candidates can answer them and not directed to any one specific candidate. So for the second question we have here, it says, how will you address the inequality in most low-income schooling when it comes to arts education? And Marilyn, do you want to take this question first?
Sure, I would love to. Yes, arts education is something I am passionate about, both as an artist myself, but also I see the value in the education. And it's actually been documented that robust arts programming helps students in so many ways besides just giving them an outlet. It does have a mental health component. It creates well-rounded processes for action, but it also can help students improve on their academic studies as well if they're given outlets through the arts. And I actually do this. I write grants specifically for arts for the high school that I work for. So we have funded a dance choreographer through the grants that I've written. We've also been able to provide like all sorts of the visual performing arts. This can go from theater, it can be from you know, actual painting and art, sculptures, expressive word. It is such a vital part of the educational process. So to answer your question about the inequities of funding, well, I'm the type of person that can bring funding, and I understand how these things work. And to make sure that all of our schools have access to the same opportunities, it's an injustice if they are not. And I look at arts programming as being a part of the core, right? It is not something that can be shed in a budget cut. It's not something that certain schools, you know, will only have if they get, you know, private funds and things like that. So I would be a fierce advocate for equitable funding, for making sure that arts programming is systemic throughout the entire district. You can count on me of being a fierce champion for that.
Thank you for the question on arts
Thank
education.
you. And now Tanya, if you want to answer the question.
Yes, thanks. Thank you for asking the question. I was telling someone recently that of all of the endorsement interviews and forums I've been to, only once have I been asked about arts education. This is the second time, so thank you. And I'm so glad you asked it about equity in arts education, because we do have an arts equity index in LA Unified, but from my experience in working with schools, the approach has absolutely been an equal opportunity, not an equitable opportunity. And so for schools that might have additional resources, families who are able to pay for after school arts access, they have also gotten the same sort of chances at arts during the school day as schools where families don't have those resources. And so we first need to take a real good look at our arts index, our arts equity index. And we need to partner better with our community partners in LA. We are so rich with arts and artists here that we should be bringing a lot more folks into schools and thinking about how we collaborate more deeply, particularly for our kids who are farthest away from the arts opportunities in LA Unified. And so there are so many things we could think about here, but I think similar to what Marilyn said is we need champions who are bringing this up, who are understanding what are the barriers and challenges for our students to access the arts, and making sure we are providing opportunities for our highest need kids. For example, this summer you might have heard about 1,000 students had free Fender guitars and lessons. Well, we have 10,000 kids who still don't have computers and devices, or an internet connectivity, sorry. So you can imagine which kids were getting access to those guitar classes this summer. And we need to think really differently about elementary arts itinerant instructors. It's a kind of nuanced conversation around planning, but it's something I've been working on and I think we can do a lot about.
Thank you so much. And we are rolling with this forum. Since we are doing really great on time, we've decided to ask one more audience question. And now this is sort of a rephrasing of a couple of people who asked questions about charter schools. Essentially, both the folks want to know how should LAUSD, or how would you, as a new LAUSD board member, hold charter schools accountable to the same high standards as LAUSD schools, and specifically in terms of how it serves students with disabilities? As you may have heard, charter schools have been notorious for having disproportionately less students with disabilities enrolled. And we have the phenomena of push out and counseling out. So sort of a two-part question on charter schools. How do we hold them accountable to the high standards of regular LAUSD schools? And then more specifically, how they serve students with disabilities. And why don't we start with Tanya?
Thanks for the question. You know, I appreciate the energy and real vision for holding all schools to high expectations, and I absolutely aim to do that as a school board member for all schools. We often talk about accountability only for charter schools, but we have lots of growth opportunities in the district. We have lots of needs that have not yet been met in all kinds of school models, and so I'm excited that the energy around holding charter schools accountable for special education students, for example, is one that is coming up today, because I would love for that same energy to be applied across all district schools. And yes, it matters the percentage of students that we're serving, the kinds of services that they have available on their campuses. Charter schools do have more flexibility in how to meet the needs of students. And so we want to make sure that they are absolutely delivering the services that students are federally allowed to receive. But we also have to be thinking about student growth and learning and inclusion in opportunities outside of the classroom, their connectedness to their teachers and their families being welcome on campus. There's so many sort of layers here when we talk about how do we hold schools accountable for special education students' success. And so I welcome the question, and I look forward to the opportunity to get to do that as a school board member. You know, we did just pass AB 1505 as a state, and there are new charter policies from the district around renewals and new applicants, but I don't think we've talked enough about the special education question in particular. And so I do think there's an opportunity to be learning here, to be examining, and where we find successes, try to replicate them at different schools so that kids are able to access the learning of all of the adults across school models.
Thank you, Tanya. And now we will hear from Marilyn.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, we're talking about accountability and holding schools accountable, and we need to be able to hold all schools, charter schools, district schools, magnets, affiliated charters. The list goes on the different types of models that LAUSD offers our families. Every single one of them needs to be held accountable. And I think even when we reflect on some of the questions that we've been asked during this entire forum, I think you've even identified the district schools aren't necessarily always being held accountable to serving our students, especially our students with special needs. And we have a host of accountability measures and laws on the federal level even that dictate how we're supposed to be serving our most vulnerable students, and yet the district continues to fail. And so I think that, you know, if you talk to, I mean, I'm a district mom, right? I have two sons in the system in LAUSD, and I have talked to other parents who are very frustrated with the special education services that they've received for their children because they're not treated as individuals, like we mentioned before, the individualized education plan. So I think this issue needs to it needs to include everything. It needs to include charters. It needs to include in all district schools. And I think we really need to be reflective of, again, of looking at accountability instead of just like a report that we turn in over and over again. We turn in the same report showing the same metrics, to start really reflecting on our systems and how are we delivering the supports for all kids, charter students, district students, it doesn't matter. They're all students and they're all precious. So how are we delivering these services to make sure that they are being served? And we can't rest until they are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is because it's like, look, these kids deserve the very best. Every single one of them does. So.
Thank you so much, candidates. Now I think we are going to hear some closing remarks from the Youth Justice League students. If I'm not wrong, Irene?
Youth Liberty Squad, but they're basically like a Justice League too. That works. Yeah, and so again, I just wanted to thank the candidates for all the questions, and again for the attendees just for submitting some really great questions. I wanted to open it up to the Youth Liberty Squad if any of the students wanted to share anything, any last words or remarks that you want to share with our attendees before we do closing remarks by Catherine. So yeah, if either one of you wants to just really quickly unmute yourself and share anything, go for it. If not, then I will pass it off to Catherine.
Don't be shy, students. If you have any advice even for the candidates, this is your time.
Okay, I think Karine was going to say something. Go ahead, Karine.
Okay, so my question is to you guys is I believe both of you have mentioned in some way or another that you guys were going to be more I don't know how to put this, but basically listen more to the students than what was normally have done before. How do you guys plan on going about this?
Oh, by the way, Karine, I think we may not have time for more questions just because we do have a couple of things, but I don't know if you wanted to, like Catherine said, if you wanted to share any last thoughts or like, because I know most of the students, you are not a voting age, so I don't know if there's any message that you want to send out to our attendees.
No, I'm good, thank you.
I'd like to go. Hi everyone, I'm Zaid Diaz. I'm a former member of the Youth Liberty Squad, and I'm currently an ACLU intern. And I just wanted to say that thank you so much for both the candidates for showing up as opposed to your opponents who didn't show up. And I think that already speaks for itself, how committed you are to this, how dedicated you are to improving the circumstances of students. And I just want to, this election, I'm going to be able to vote. And I just want to thank you guys. And it seems like you guys are both really dedicated to the community. And I hope both of you guys win your seats. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thank you, Saeed. All right, so I'm going to pass it off to Catherine just to kind of wrap things up. But again, just want to give my thanks to Youth Liberty Squad students for joining us virtually and actually help put this forum together. And I'm very appreciative of all their time and effort that they've put into this. And so I hope that everyone who has joined us today, who has the privilege and is able to vote, please do so. Your voice is, hopefully reflects the needs of the students that have joined us today and everyone else in LAUSD. Okay, so you can take it away, Kat.
Thank you, Irene. So apologies, Youth Liberty Squad. I confused your name with the Youth Justice Education Clinic, which also are our co-hosts for the event. But thank you to all the co-hosts, including the Youth Liberty Squad and the Youth Justice Education Clinic and ACLU SoCal. It's been such a great evening. I've really enjoyed it. So last but not least, we have the closing statements. So each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make their final remarks. And we will start with Tanya.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for hosting this event, for centering student leadership and all the life that you're giving us about civic engagement and your future leadership. You know, honestly, that's why a lot of us get into this in the first place, is because we know our very planet is in your hands and we want some small way to contribute to that through learning opportunities with you all, through discussions like this. So I just really am so deeply grateful for you all creating this space today and for student leaders really asking us some great questions. Would love to stay in touch. Definitely want to figure out ways to continue to center youth voice. So Green, at the end when you were asking how do we do that, I want to invite you to be on advisory boards, and I want to be a part of listening sessions where I hear from you what's going well, what's not going well, and how can I be a better board member to serve you and your classmates. So again, just thank you so much for providing this opportunity and for your leadership, talking to friends and families who are eligible to vote. You know, there was a board resolution looking into whether 17 and 16-year-olds would be able to vote in LA Unified. I think we might need to look back at that and see what progress has been made, because you're clearly so informed, and you're right, the decisions we make absolutely impact your day-to-day life, and it would be powerful to have you as our direct direct accountability line. And I'm very much looking forward to that day. So thank you for being engaged. Please tell everyone to get out and vote for Prop 15 and 16, and there are lots of others, but really to take care with our LA Unified board races. We make lots of decisions that impact hundreds of thousands of children and our future leaders. And so your voice really does matter this election. Again, thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you, Tanya. And Marilyn, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much. I wouldn't have missed this event for the world because it was student-led, and I just was so thrilled and honored to be a part of it. And to answer, you know, the young man who was asking, look, this is about always listening and to be civically engaged past election day, right? This is about always being a part of the conversation with our elected officials. And I think what you've seen from the way that Tanya and I are approaching this is that, you know, we want to listen and we want to be a part of the conversation. We want to be advocates and champions. But I want to leave you guys with a personal story about one of the reasons why I am so incredibly passionate about running. And my grandparents both had only an 8th grade education. My parents were the first to go to college. And after they got their college degrees, they decided that they were going to conduct humanitarian missions. And we as a family, we left when I was 8 years old, and we traveled to Sierra Leone, which is in West Africa. And then we moved to Pakistan, and I went to high school in Kathmandu, Nepal. And in that time, we built community, and we wanted to make the world a better place. And so now, as a mom myself, I think about, you know, the legacy that I provide for my sons and making sure that we do the greatest good with the amount of time that we have. But I want to tell the story because I think it illustrates the power of education. So for my parents and my family, it literally and figuratively, education opened up the world to them. And I am, you know, someone who believes that with all my core is that if we continue making a solid educational system, we can create a better world and open up the world of possibilities for all of our kids and for future generations. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this forum. And yes, remember to vote. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our LAUSD candidate forum. Thank you again to everyone who made this possible. I did want to remind folks out there that as nonprofits, we do not formally endorse candidates. All of the candidates were invited to attend. And I also wanted to end by saying we have a very short feedback form for those who attended. And we'll put that in the chat for you all to click on. And if you don't get a chance right now to do the feedback form, we'll also email it to folks. And last but not least, make sure that all of you are registered to vote if you're able to do so. Make a plan to vote, whether that be voting by mail or in person, and vote as early as you can. So thank you all again. And this concludes our forum. And if I can have all of the panelists and the candidates turn on their videos now, we'd really like to get a group shot with everyone. So let's all see those beautiful faces. Okay, almost all there. Okay, everyone smile.
All right, everyone hold your beautiful smiles there for me in 3, 2, 1. All right, we'll take one more just to be safe. Just because we're on Zoom doesn't mean you're not safe from blinking. So here we go. Let's do it in 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everyone.
And now can we just have the 2 candidates leave their videos on and everyone else turn their videos off, please? Great.
All right, candidates, same thing here. We'll take a photo in 3, 2, 1. All right, and just to be safe, let's do it one more time in 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.